Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Necromaniacs Horror Podcast. It's Necro Thursday, and I'm here with Jeff Kashid. How's it going, Jeff?
Good, man. How you doing?
Hanging in there, man. It's mid-January. Year's off to a pretty good start, I think. You know,
Hmm.
um, yeah. So far, so good.
Wish I could say the same. This year's kind of started off on the wrong foot. It's we're about to have a freeze here in Austin. Apparently, it's about 35 degrees right now, 30 degrees right now, and everyone's all in
Man,
a panic. The roads are going to freeze. You have to keep your faucets on so the water doesn't freeze and the pipes don't burst. And just a few other negative things. But I'm trying to stay afloat.
it's definitely stressful, man. Jeez.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I forget, when you live in California, these things just don't happen where it's like, 75 degrees year round usually. You kind of get used to that. And like moving here, this will be my second winter here. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I forget. It actually gets cold here.
Yeah, I kind of like the winters in Texas, though. It's like this kind of weird, like you're in like a Sergio Leone, like desolate, like cold desolation, like in the desert. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I dig it, man. I mean, well, not when it's this cold, but I do like the winters here are in comparison to growing up on the East Coast. It's nothing. Where you guys are. I mean, I was just talking to my parents, and there's just some sort of storm or something in Connecticut, and they got like inches of rain and snow, or I don't know. And I'm like, fuck that. I never want to deal with that again.
Have you checked anything out recently that was of note?
Yeah, a few things actually. I usually start off the new year with things I missed in the previous year, things I wanted to get to but didn't. And there's a lot in 2023 I didn't get to. Uh, Not a horror movie. I'll start off with a couple non-horror movies. I finally saw Barbie. Did you see it?
Nah, dude, I can't bring myself to watch that. I mean, I know everyone says it's good, but I just cannot. I can't do it, dude.
I gotta say, man, for a $1 billion huge mainstream hit, it was pretty weird. Like a much weirder movie than I expected it to be. Um, didn't love it, but it wasn't that bad. I heard, I've read the things this man hating film, blah blah blah. I definitely don't think it's that, uh, but it was better than I expected, weirder than I expected. It's worth checking out. I mean, but if you're, because I'm like, I was like, yeah, that's not my thing, a Barbie movie, and I ended up watching it, and it's like, yeah, it's okay, so it's fine. That's the final word. It's fine.
I mean, yeah,
One of our call.
as some of you guys know, I'm gonna be heading out in on the road next month, so maybe that's something I watch on my like iPad or something like that. You know?
Yeah, I could see Toombs just hanging out watching Barbie together. I can see that. One of our listeners mentioned a movie. I called in and talking about the holdovers, and that was on my list
Yeah.
of things to check out, and I finally did. And sorry, I forgot the listener's name, but yeah, he's absolutely correct. It's one of the best movies of the year. Probably will be in my top three of last year. It's fantastic, man. Paul Giamatti, really great actor. Alexander Payne is a wonderful director. I loved Nebraska, Election, The Descendants, and this might be his best movie.
Yeah, that's something that's on my radar too. As I was mentioning to you before we started recording, that the last like been like an incredibly stressful time, mostly
Mm.
work related stress that's been kind of invading my personal time, and that's coming to an end though soon. In case you guys are
Good.
worried about me. So yeah, so I've been very yeah, I've been like kind of like the viewing has been very specific as to what I've been watching, but the holdovers is definitely something that's on my radar.
It's great, man. I think you're really gonna like it. And on the horror front, I saw this movie pop up on a few top 10 lists. Our fellow horseman put it on his Hell House LLC Origins.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
yeah, not good. I didn't like it.
I caught that one as well. It would not be on my top 10 list by any stretch. You know, it was like it
Yeah.
was. I watched it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not like I have kind of forgotten like the whole lore. I saw the original Hell House LLC when it came out, and it surprised me. It was like this is it's pretty good, pretty scary. You know, at that point, found footage was a little played out, and I thought they found like they made it work. It was scary and effective. And I think I saw both sequels, and I remember being really unimpressed. But you know, so by the time I watched this one, this prequel, I guess it is, I'd forgotten most of the lore. I wasn't really sure. I wasn't, you know, the callbacks, the Easter eggs. I wasn't really too familiar with that, but it just didn't work, man. Like found footage stuff or mockumentaries, they really you have to believe these people aren't acting, that they're real. I mean, you know they're not, but it has to be believable. And it just wasn't believable at all. It felt really stilted and awkward and just very acted. I don't know what you thought.
Yeah, the first Hell House I thought was cool, and then yeah,
Yeah.
I think like the sequels, it just sort of everything it was a decreasing return on investment in that film for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes like that whatever you're working with, lightning only strikes once. You know, like there was one Blair Witch Project movie, and that worked, and that was the first one. And then everyone else they tried to do just it just doesn't work. And I think it's sort of the same thing with Hell House. You had one good movie stretched out into four movies, and the other horror thing I wanted to mention, Mike, we have to do an episode about this movie. Maybe all of us need to be on it. Leave the World Behind.
Yes, yeah, that well, I'll talk about that a little bit more, but I 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to save my thoughts for our eventual episode, but I watched that, and I think if you're listening, you should check it. It's worth seeing. I'm not saying I liked it or didn't like it, but it's worth seeing. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, no, totally.
What about you, man? What have you been checking out?
Quite a bit actually.
Oh,
It's mostly in the last few days I've been watching a lot of shit. Let's see. The first thing I recently saw Pet Cemetery Bloodlines, which is a
mm.
prequel to Pet Cemetery.
Prequel to
And
the remake, right? I
well,
guess.
it doesn't really fit into the lore neatly. There's a lot of license taken with the actual
Mm.
story, which is one of the big gripes I have about it. You know what I mean? But
Mm.
it's I think this is like a direct to streaming kind of thing.
I think
I
so.
don't know
Yeah.
if it had a theatrical release or not. Um, it wasn't, let's put it this way, it was decent. There's
Okay.
definitely some stuff in there that was like, I didn't I didn't respond very well to. But the story, like the vibe of the movie just had this very tense, like bleak, like vibe to it, which I definitely appreciated. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. I think
Um,
that's the nicest thing I've heard anyone say about it so far.
yeah, it's not good. It's decent. You know what I mean? It's like,
Okay.
do I recommend it? Maybe. Like if it's like late night and you got nothing to do and you can't go to sleep, maybe put it on. That's
And
my
hey, dude,
recommendation for that.
David Duchovny. I mean, you can't really go wrong with him. If it's bad, he's still fun to watch.
Yeah, I love David Duchovny, man. He's great.
Me too, man. Mulder.
Yeah, there was a vibe in that movie which I kind of dug, but I'm not gonna say it was a good film, but we
Yeah, I
checked it
got you.
out and it was yeah. Um, Rewatched The Clove Hitch Killer, which gets
Oh,
better with each viewing, obviously.
hell yeah. That was part of my October horror movie a day watch. And that came out of nowhere, what, like 2017, 18. Like, oh man, like remember watching it and by the end, I was like, that was 1,000 times better than I expected because I expected kind of nothing from it at that point.
Yeah,
But man, such a great movie.
I I can't say enough good things about it, man. I mean, me and Mike did an episode on it a while back, right around the time
Yeah.
it came out, and I even then, but like, man, what a intense, like heavy ass movie. And people were all about that other film, Summer of '88, I think.
Oh,
Um,
84. Yeah, yeah.
it's Summer of '84. Like they both came out at the same time. one's in the 80s. Takes place some point in the 90s, and it's like
Hmm.
similar vibes. Everyone was all about the hype was for summer of '84,
Yeah.
but that movie I thought was like pale, pale version of what the subject matter being discussed in both of those
T-
films. Very pale, but
totally agree, man.
Clovich, Dylan McDermott kills it.
Yep.
Everyone acts great in that, and it's just like very intense. It had like this certain bleakness to it at the end. Really, really great
Yeah.
film.
Not dissimilar to what the movie we're going to discuss, where it really comes down to, acting and sort of like this intensity.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Watch The Crow again, the fan favorite, The Crow. It's like
Mm.
a big movie,
How does it hold up? It's been a while since I've seen it.
It's awesome, man. It's like me and Tina watched it together. It's like she recommended putting it on last night, and it was like fun, great movie. I mean, I love the comic book too, but the film I thought was cool. Very 90s soundtrack. There's like bands like Medicine, Helmet, you know,
The Cure.
Rollins Band are in the soundtrack. The Cure. Oh, the Cure song is awesome in that movie.
Yeah, yeah. The Cure
You
was
know,
still great at that point.
yeah, totally. So that was cool.
Hell yeah.
What we've been watching a lot of like true crime. So there's this documentary called Killer Sally, which
Mm.
was actually worth checking out. It's on Netflix. It's about these bodybuilders. The husband, abuses the wife. She murders him. That kind of thing. True
Oh,
crime.
okay. Yeah. I love true crime. Do you listen to any true crime podcasts?
I can't get that. I just it doesn't catch me true crime podcasts, but I'm all
Mm.
about these docu series though. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it hits a little bit different. Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah. And last but not least, under your recommendation, I checked out Leave the World Behind, and I definitely have a lot to say about that movie.
Oh,
Definitely,
awesome.
yeah, definitely worthwhile. Interesting movie. There's a lot of stuff. Definitely warrants a second and maybe even a third viewing before we talk about it.
Completely agree. Yeah, a little long for multiple viewings, but worth it, I think.
Yeah, I think I banged it out in one sitting, but maybe if I watch it again, I might break it up a little bit. But definitely cool, and excellent acting in that movie too.
Yeah, I felt differently, but the more I thought about the film, the more I thought like, oh, I think I understand why it is the way it is, like why the acting is the way it is. And I read a few things about the movie, and the more I read about it, just the more like fascinating the whole thing becomes.
Yeah, I haven't read anything about it, but I just know that my you know, once again, I don't know what I would rate it, but I thought it was definitely a film to discuss though.
Absolutely. Dude, I feel the same way. It's kind of like when you saw Skinamarink, and I was like, "How was it?" And you said, I don't know, man. It's been a week and I don't know what I think of it. It's one of those movies where like, it might take you to come to the conclusion that you absolutely love it or you hate it.
Definitely, but it's not one of those down the middle movies at all. Like you're gonna fall one way or the other with it.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. Glad you watched it though.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, it was on my radar for sure. But yeah, definitely. So yeah, before we get into the voicemails, let's shout everyone out. So the other horsemen of the podcasting apocalypse, the growing legion of horsemen, shall I say.
Yes.
Kicking the week off, we've got Horrorwolf 666, brought to you by Brandon Legion. Up next, and I hope he's going to drop an episode soon. This motherfucker's been on vacation for a long time, man. He's doing it Euro style. You know what I mean? So, of course, I'm talking about Into the Necrosphere,
Hmm.
brought to you by Jackie Smith, which is like the top extreme music podcast in the world, in my opinion. Wednesday is Everything Went Black, which, recently I had Cheyenne, another horseman, on the
Hmm.
podcast to talk about his most recent album with Trivax. Thursday is Necro Thursday, which you're listening to right now. Necromaniacs, brought to you by me, Jeff, and Mike Scandato. Friday is Spitball Media, brought to you by Mike's brother, John Draper. Interesting how they have different last names.
Yes, but at the same
Confounding.
time, I just listened to an episode the other day, and I immediately knew who Mike's brother was just from the voice.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, totally. Yeah. Yeah, there's no mistaking that for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Saturday's a day off. Or you're a football fan, right, Jeff? So
I
that
am,
would be
yes.
a bye day for the
Bye
Freshmen.
week.
It's a
Yes. Yeah.
bye
Yeah.
week. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sunday on the Lord's Day, Carl Hakara brings us Soul Knox for all things dark, esoteric, and macabre. Carl and I are full swing into our collaboration, Darkness Weaves, where we explore the work of Carl Edward Wagner, an
Mhm.
author that we're hoping to introduce new readers to. I mean, unfortunately, Wagner passed away a long time ago, but his work lives on, albeit in relative obscurity. So please try to seek out his work. It's great if you're into weird fiction, dark fantasy, like that sort of stuff. Um, and last but not least, of course, Iblis Manifestations, brought to you by Cheyenne, who was recently on Everything Went Black. So, as some of you know, we have a the Necrophone where you can leave voicemails telling us whatever. If you want to leave a recommendation for a movie, make commentary about some of the episodes, or just say hello, feel free to do that.
Mm.
That number is 908-913-0782. 908-913-0782. So definitely give us a shout. This week we've got 3 callers, which is awesome. I love hearing
Yeah.
from everybody.
Me too.
First up, first up we got Bill from Santa Fe.
Yeah, hey guys, this is Bill in Santa Fe. Big fan of the show. Go way back. And finally worked up the nerve to leave you guys a message. And I got a couple of recommendations. The first one would be Threads. This came out in the early 80s. It was kind of a nuclear Holocaust scare movie in the UK. It was also called The Night the Country Didn't Sleep. And I find this movie to be beautifully bleak. It has a very powerful third act, in my opinion. And just highly recommend this one. And my next recommendation is a little, maybe a little off the beaten path for you guys, but it is Universal Soldier Regeneration. And this came out in, I think, the early aughts, maybe around 2010 or so. It is in my opinion, the last great direct-to-DVD movie. It is beautifully filmed by Peter Hyams, who had a moment, or maybe a few moments back in the 80s. Had some real gems. It is directed by his son, John Hyams, and it just looks great. And it's very different than any of the other Universal Soldier movies. I've only seen, I think, the first one, but it is, it's pretty good. It's got Von Damme and Dolph Lundgren. Von Damme gives, this may sound odd, but kind of a really interesting, layered, moody performance in this movie. And look forward to hearing what you guys think about that if you do check it out. Also, a movie you guys have probably seen that I'd love to hear you talk about a bit would be The Hitcher, which is one of those gems of the 90s, and I think my second favorite Rutger Hauer performance. But yeah, look forward to hearing the next show, and keep up the great work, and have a good one. Thanks.
Thanks a lot for calling in, Bill. Threads has been a film that I've been wanting to watch for decades, believe it or not. And I just, I don't know. I'm almost like afraid to watch that movie based on all the stuff that I hear about it, like how depressing and intense it is. But I know it's on Shudder, and I know it's in my future my more immediate future, I think, because this film has come up quite a bit recently. So have you seen this movie, Jeff?
No, I haven't, but I was just gonna say the same thing. I feel like it's like the fifth or sixth time it's come up.
So I think it definitely we need to cover this movie for sure because we definitely haven't talked about this film, and I
Yeah.
don't think Mike's seen it either, actually.
Oh, I thought maybe he mentioned it on an episode that he finally watched it. I could be mistaken. Could be mistaken.
Um, yeah, I'm not sure. I'm remembering Mike not seeing this film either. I remember,
Okay, you're probably right. You'd know better than I would.
yeah, not necessarily, dude. But yeah,
Yeah.
I want to see this. Maybe we need to do an episode on this for sure. It's just one of those things where I'm just like, man, am I in the mood to be like this, like bummed because I heard that it's like a heavy ass movie. So yeah,
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like when you know that that's coming, like it kind of almost makes you not in the mood to see it, or well, whereas if you were just watching it, didn't know anything about it, and then it bummed you out, it's a different thing. Going into it, knowing it's gonna fucking make you depressed, it makes it kind of hard to watch.
yeah, because I mean, everyone like the Evolution of Horror podcast talked about it, and everyone
Ah,
was like,
okay.
this movie fucked me up. It was like it was like a harrowing experience, and I was like, I don't know. But
Yeah,
I feel it's my duty. It's our duty to watch this movie and talk about it. So let's try to maybe knock that one out this year.
absolutely.
So what are your feelings on Universal Soldier, series? I haven't seen Regeneration.
I haven't either. I think I saw the first Universal Soldier. I remember watching it with my girlfriend and her mom when I was 16 years old. And that's the last Universal Soldier experience I've had. I do remember a few years ago, actually probably quite a few years ago at this point, that one of the direct to video sequels was really, really good and got good reviews. So I'm imagining this is the one, that's probably the one he's talking about.
Yeah, I'll probably check this out because you know, I like Dolph Lundgren and Jean-Claude Van Damme when I see them
Yeah,
in
I
movies.
mean,
So I'll
sort of like grew up
yeah.
with those guys, watching their stuff as like, a 9 year old.
The Hitcher is a film I've always loved. I own a copy of that actually. It's a great movie.
Oh man, it's a classic, man. If you're a horror fan, I feel like the movie's definitely on your radar, and it's sort of a big one. But I don't know if it ever moved past like the hardcore horror genre fans. This isn't like really well known outside of that circle. And there's a remake, but yeah, the original is so good, so bleak. One of my favorites, actually.
Me too, man. And it's like Rutger Hauer is great. just
Yeah,
just him being in a movie is always a plus, and
totally agree.
and also, just as it has that sort of moody, meditative, like you and I both have traveled through that part of the country
Hmm.
many, many times over the years, and there's something about that part of the country that just has this kind of bleak moodiness to it when you're traveling on those highways, and I always thought that was cool about this movie.
Yeah, and like it seems so psychological where it's like after I saw it, I thought like this movie might have taken place in the main character's head. Like I wasn't completely sure. You know what I mean? Like it was so
Sure.
deeply atmospheric and oh man, I love that movie. We might want to consider doing that one as well.
I agree. I'd be down for that.
Yeah.
So up next, we got Mike from Telford. Good to hear from
Yeah.
him again. So here's Mike. Yeah, man.
Yo, Necro Hoods. It's Mike from Telford here. Just heard the first episode of the year on Cobweb. It was excellent. You guys are my Thursday companions. I appreciate it. Started off the fucking year with the fucking flu or whatever this shit is that's going around here, so they kind of put us down last weekend. Me and my lady both had it. So I hope you guys don't get a hold of that shit. We did watch the Quatermass in the Pit BBC miniseries from the late 50s with Andre Morell and Michael Ripper as a part in that too. I love that guy. And it's basically the same story that they made the movie about in the 60s, Quatermass in the Pit, but the miniseries was really cool. It's black and white. It's from the 50s, but it was fucking well worth a watch. So if you guys have never checked that out, I think you would dig that for sure. And other than that, man, I hope you have a good run on that Pro Fanatica tour, Mike. That's going to be killer. And if you're down in the Asheville, North Carolina area, stop into Orbit DVD. Been doing a lot of mail order from them. They carry a lot of secondhand shit. And I've never been to the physical store, but that's where everything comes from that I've been ordering. So if you get a chance to check them out, man, I think it'd be well worth your time. All right, brothers. Look forward to next Thursday, and hope everybody's doing well. Later.
Happy New Year, Mike. I have not seen the Quatermass in the Pit series, but I've seen the movie, and I've been wanting to see that series for years, dude. Have you checked any of that stuff out?
I have not, man. I am woefully undereducated when it comes to that.
It's awesome, man. It's like just like early, like Brit, weird sci-fi stuff. It's awesome. There's a whole bunch of there's a few Quatermass films, and the TV series came out in the late 50s, and I have not seen it. I own a copy of the movie, which came out in the 60s, and yeah, it's like ancient aliens, like vaguely like Lovecraftian, kind of stuff,
right?
People digging tunnels, like that sort of stuff. Really cool.
Yeah, back in like 2012 or something like that, or 11, I did like a horror movie a day on Facebook, and a couple people are like, "Are you familiar with asked me about the Quatermass series?" And it's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not that familiar with it." And people were surprised, and like, you're a horror guy, you really gotta get on that. And here we are, like 11 years later or whatever, and I still haven't seen them.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they're streaming anywhere. I didn't check.
I don't think they are.
Yeah, but I have you can get hard copies of these things pretty easily, except for the series. Like right after Mike called in with this, I went to see if I could either purchase it digitally or buy a Blu-ray of it. But all that stuff's apparently it's no longer available.
Oh man.
I mean, maybe yeah. So it's really the movies you can find and you can order, but the series is like obscure and hard to find.
I was going to do some Blu-ray shopping after we were done recording. I'll take a look around, see what they do have, maybe.
Yeah, no, totally. And yeah, Mike, thanks a lot. We're looking forward to getting on the road with Pro Fanatica and Non-Slaughter. That should be a good run for us, I think. I checked to see how far Asheville was. Excuse me. The nearest town we're playing is Greensboro, which is I think like 2 hours away. So unfortunately, I don't think I'll be making it to Asheville to check out that video store.
Yeah, I lived in Asheville, and I was surprised to hear him talk about this. Was like, man, I don't remember this at all when I lived there. Maybe it came about after I left. I only lived in Asheville for about, I don't know, like a total of like 8 or 9 months. So I didn't really get out to explore. Yeah. Lovely, lovely town. Like, very cool. I really enjoyed living there a lot. If I ever do get back there, I'm definitely checking that out, though.
Yeah, Asheville's great, man. I wish I'd been there. I've only been to Asheville like maybe 3 or 4 times, maybe. And
yeah, it's not like a big tourist stop.
Town.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have played there then?
Surprisingly, because the town, yeah, we played there like 3 or 4 times. Like there,
I never played there.
First, yeah, like on the very first Tombs tour, we played there, like DIY show. There was like a fest that happened there with like we played there with like Kylesa and like Wino and people like that.
Right.
And Zoroaster, I don't know if you remember that band.
Oh, sure, of course. Yeah. They were on like every fest for a while.
Yeah, and then maybe 2 other times we ran through there and haven't been back since. That's been like probably since maybe 2017 is the last time I was there.
Yeah, I don't think I've been there since 2004, 5 maybe. I mean, yeah, there was a cool like indie record store when I lived there, Green Eggs and Jam, which is long gone now, I'm told. And there was like the bigger sort of rock venue, like the Orange Peel, where bands like Interpol would play. There just didn't seem to be like the right venue size for ISIS. Like someplace that I guess it was either like you play a record store or you play like a 2,000 seat venue, which, just didn't, I guess, quite work for us. I remember talking to our booking agents and things like, think we can play Asheville? It'd be kind of fun to play a hometown show for me. She's like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just not a lot.
Yeah, that Orange Peel place, that's that's where that festival was at. And
Okay.
I mean Clutch headlined it. So
Okay.
Clutch pretty much filled that place.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So
Right on.
next up we got Tavis from Pittsburgh calling in again.
How's it going, gentlemen? This is Tavis from Pittsburgh. Just calling you back. Happy New Year to you all and to all the listeners out there. Got a couple recommendations I'd heard you guys talk about. I don't know if anybody's seen Showdown at the Grand yet. Not a horror movie, maybe a little horror adjacent. It was really cool. Good time. Dolph Lundgren, totally awesome in it. Kind of reminded me of, like Matinee, the John Goodman movie from like the 90s meets like the Grindhouse trailers, sort of. Good stuff. I recommend it. And then I know you guys talk about being fans of Ennie's Main, and I don't know if you watched Mark Jenkins' previous movie, Bait. That was pretty cool too. Different subject matter, but looks awesome. Shot kind of similar style, but in black and white. Definitely worth a watch. And then went back to 1960, a movie called The Hypnotic Eye about like a stage hypnotist that it's kind of like a pre-Wizard of Gore almost. That like these people that go to see him after like he's watching his act, they like pretty gnarly kills for 1960, like stick their head in the oven and stuff like that. Worth a watch. Then hey Mike, I just also picked up tickets to see you guys in Pro Fanatica and Nunslaughter here on February 27th, man. So I'll stop by and say hello. Take care, guys. Have a good one.
Good hearing from you again, Tavis. I have not seen Showdown at the Grand, and it looks like we're getting a lot of Dolph Lundgren love on this episode.
Yeah. Weird. I've seen Showdown a Little Tokyo. Isn't that with Dolph Lundgren and Brandon Lee, also from The Crow?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought he was talking about. So I guess there's another Showdown movie with Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah. I've been meaning to see Mark Jenkins's film, Bait. I haven't seen it yet though. Ennie's Main was great. I own a Blu-ray copy of that. I watched it a couple times, and just interesting guy. I'm looking forward to seeing more about him. And the Hypnotic Eye. I've not even heard of that film. Is that something you're familiar with, Jeff?
No, I don't know that one. That's what's great about these calls is there's always a handful of like, I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. And dude, looking forward to seeing you, man. Definitely stop by. Glad that you purchased a ticket. It seems like the tour is selling pretty well. So it's been a minute since I've been to Pittsburgh too. So definitely swing by. I'll be there. We'll get a cup of coffee or something like that,
Awesome.
And that brings us to this week's feature. A movie that I feel like you and I have been talking about doing this one
forever now. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, we're talking about The Gift, written and directed by Joel Edgerton. And
a great Joel
we're
Edgerton.
Actually we're interesting guy, man. Like Australian actor and writer and director, apparently. What comes to mind is The Stranger, a film that you and I both really like. That also features Sean Harris, one of the incredible Sean Harris.
Yeah, and that movie was recommended to me by an actor, and I can see why it's a very actorly movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As well as this film is.
As well as this film, yes.
Yeah. Edgerton also is in The Animal Kingdom, the original Australian film, which was serialized. There was a series called The Animal Kingdom that came out a few years ago.
Mm-hmm. I never saw the show.
See that?
No.
Pretty good. It was different. Yeah. Very different. Ellen Barkin's in it.
Oh, she plays the mom role, right? It's a different thing. It's not like it's based on the movie, but not in the same world as the movie. Is that correct?
Nah, nah. Yeah, it's like the spirit of that film transported to Southern California with like surfer bros, you know?
You know what I love about the film is Joel Edgerton's in the movie for 10 minutes, maybe, but like his
Yeah.
character looms over the entire film.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. Really
So
well
it's
written movie.
yeah, yeah. And
Edger-
and go ahead.
Edgerton was also in Zero Dark 30 and Black
Mhm.
Mass. Those are some other notable films.
Yeah. He seems to like to play in that morally, like sort of on the dark side of morality. Like he seems to excel at those kind of films. I also wanted to point out, I think him and his brother were involved in the production of a film called The Square, an Australian, not The Square that came out like a couple years ago, but an Australian film from like, 2008 or nine. I don't know if you've seen that.
No, I haven't. I've never even aware of
Oh,
it.
dude, you need to watch that movie. It is absolutely fantastic. Modern day noir written by I believe maybe his brother directed it or co-wrote it. I know he was involved in the production of it. He might even have a smaller role in it. It is one of my favorite Australian crime movies. It's amazing. I can't say enough great things about it. The Square.
That's a subgenre in and of itself, man. It's like Australian like scumbag movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's almost like like a Boston crime movie. Like they all have this sort of vibe to them. Australia crime films are the same way, but it's like, man, you're going to get into some heavy shit with whatever you watch.
Our mutual friend Selden Hunt, an
Mm,
Australian, has
yeah.
definitely corroborated the intensity of Australian thugs. So, a lot of these movies are kind of hit close to home for him based on what he's told me.
Yeah, yeah. He turned me onto a great one called The Boys. Austria with the actress from Hereditary. What's her name? I don't know. She's in it in one of her first roles. It's really really good. If you've talked to Selden, which I know you talked to him about, she's probably brought this movie up before.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. He's recommended tons of stuff, movies and books alike. So yeah, he's like
Yeah,
a really good resource for that kind of stuff.
yeah, yeah. Love that guy, man.
Yeah. So this movie was released August 7th, 2015 in the US, August 27th, 2016 in Australia, and it's 108 minutes long, a bit on the long side.
A bit.
The cast, I'm just going to name the top three people in this movie because it
Yeah,
really
yeah.
is just about the interaction of these three people. Of course, we have Joel Edgerton as Gordo. We have Rebecca Hall as Robin. We might remember her from The Night House, which came out a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And Jason Bateman as Simon, and we know him from Ozark, Arrested Development, and The Outsider, HBO Stephen King adaptation series.
Yes, yeah. Well, a couple of those things hadn't existed at the time this movie came out.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So man, what's the where to start with this movie, man? It's one of these movies that leans heavily on actors' performances, writing, and atmosphere.
Yeah,
And it tells a story of a married couple, Simon and Robin, who they moved from Chicago, and they don't you don't well, pretty much immediately you get the vibe that there was a miscarriage, by Robin. She lost the baby, and
yeah,
they moved to someplace outside of L.A. where Simon takes a
yeah,
new job. And again, they're hard at work trying to conceive a child. Now that's like the elements of the film is like being able to have a baby and work, like success and what it takes to
right.
succeed, and like, all the character flaws and all that sort of stuff that's inherent in all those things. So that's an exploration of that, I think, in a lot of ways.
Oh, definitely. And I love that this film doesn't really hit you over the head with any of its themes. Like you're never like going, oh, that's going to come up later. That's going to come up later. Everything just sort of comes about in like hints and just body language and atmosphere, like you said. Like the way the film is made, there's a lot of like, I don't know, it's a very cold feeling movie. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. There feels like a coldness even just between Robin and Simon.
Yeah, I
They
thought so
seem
too. Yeah.
distant. Yeah, they seem very distant. And also there's like you slowly get to see the character of each of the characters, not to
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
what the kind of
absolutely.
people they are.
Yeah, like
And it's yeah, things start off in one place and they evolve into a different picture, which I think is one of the very excellent points in this film.
yeah,
So
it's
they
like
run into Gordo.
yeah.
Where do they run into him? Like at like a I forgot where they ran into
It
Gordo.
looks like
Was it
they're at
sort
like a furniture like Bath and Body Works or something like that because I think they bought like a couch and they need it delivered. And I love the way this scene is shot. You see them come into the building and you see right away Joel Edgerton come into frame as Gordo. Like he's there. Like it's such a chance moment. You can see by the stunned look on his face as he's watching them through the window. It takes the audience a bit of time to notice that they're being watched. But if you've seen the film a few times, you notice he's in the frame almost the entire time.
yeah, so
And yeah,
he's
like
like an old classmate of Simon's. Like they have like a past. So like, it's kind of one of those devices in a film that's kind of I mean, I guess stuff like this happens to people sometimes. You just unexpectedly run into someone and things happen, I guess.
yeah, and their meeting is a little awkward. Like you can just tell, like the look on Gordo's face, like can't believe he's seeing Simon. And when he says something, Simon doesn't remember him at all. And I love the little hints of their characters you get from these little interactions. Like you almost feel right away something is kind of, off about Simon. That and Gordo's a little awkward. Gordo's appearance. He's probably, this is probably people in their late 30s, I would imagine, at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's got like an earring in his left ear, and his hair is kind of funny, like maybe he dyes it or something. And his clothes fit a little awkwardly, whereas Simon is really, really put together, really sharp. Clothes are fitted, nice haircut. Like you kind of, like just little things like that, like tell you about the character dynamics in this film. Like something's just a little bit off with Gordon, and maybe he's never quite developed. Like he's dressed like he thinks a cool guy would dress, and that's and it's completely off.
Also, what I found interesting too is like Joel Edgerton is kind of like a very physically like the man Joel Edgerton is like a physically capable looking guy. You know what I mean? Like when you
Oh,
see him in some of these other roles, like in these like kind of these Australian tough guy movies, he looks like the kind of guy who could take care of himself. You know what I mean?
oh, absolutely.
Gordo, Gordo, he's like playing down. Like he's like if you put Edgerton and Bateman next to each other, and like which
Mhm.
guy's going to kick the other guy's ass, you definitely go with Edgerton.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
that's a really interesting point I haven't thought of that. Yeah, like in real life, he's the opposing figure, but in this, he's very just meek and just he feels like small, like he's constantly like scrunched up or something.
Yeah, he's diminished. Like he has this energy about him that indicates that he's somewhat diminished. That life has you can almost see like the weight on his shoulders. You know what I mean? Because you mentioned that he was like kind of hunched over and scrunched down, and you can see that maybe he'd been carrying a lot over the course of his lifetime. And of course, we learned that he has. A couple things
Yeah,
actually. We also learned that he was in the military and all this other stuff too.
yeah.
Which is
I
a red
wasn't. Yeah,
flag for a lot of people.
yeah. I wasn't sure whether I mean, the military thing came up once. I'm not even sure if that was completely true because the more you learn about Gordo, the more you really question his character throughout the entire film. And Whereas Simon, the more you learn about him, the more it sort of confirms your suspicion about him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of Gordo's background is fabricated. And now, actually, you know what? I think I might be leaning towards that being a fabrication as well, his military service, because everyone that I've ever met that's been in the military is quick to point out which branch that they're in.
Hmm.
I'm in fucking Marines, fuck yeah, or like, hoorah, I was in the army, I was in this, I was in that. Gordo
Right.
was like, I was in the military in this like very general sense.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That reminds me. There's a research scene, and I think he was in the military, but was dishonorably discharged like pretty quickly.
All right, yeah,
I
okay.
think I kind of
Yep,
remember
there you
that. Yeah. Okay.
go. Okay,
Um,
yeah,
I just corrected myself.
there you go. We just corrected
um,
each other on this.
yeah. But still, that's the kind of person this character is. Like, you're not really quite sure what's real, what's not with him. You're not really sure if your sympathies lie with him through some of the movie. I think by the end, there's no way your sympathies lie with him.
Yeah.
But still, like, I mean, just like this movie, like, it moves along at such a great pace, and I love that this is sort of like a thriller of a nuisance, a person that's trying to infect this couple's life. And it doesn't really hit like the horror tropes that these movies kind of hit. You know what I mean? Like, it didn't seem like Joel Edgerton was interested in making that movie. Like in a lesser movie, the dog, they find their dog's head in a mailbox, or like the neighbor gets murdered. It's much
Yeah,
more
no,
psychological and smart than that.
I agree. I agree
Yeah.
completely. And really, since we're saying like we don't know who who we sympathize with, and the answer to that question is ultimately maybe just the wife, maybe just Robin.
Oh, absolutely. I think she's the real victim of all of this. She's just this pawn in between these two guys. You know what I mean? And you really feel for her. You kind of see the film is kind of told from her perspective, and
Yeah.
you sort of like sympathize with her, and like she's almost like an audience like surrogate. You know what I mean?
One of the first hints that we get that Simon's a douchebag is his friends, like his coworkers,
Oh yeah, he's like really. He works for like I wasn't quite. He said what he did, but he sells like
like
security
securities.
for yeah, and he's really impressed by like these billionaires he works for, and really wants to move up in the company. There's also very subtle hints about him being a douchebag, like when he re-meets Gordo, and he's very dismissive, and Gordon sends him a really expensive bottle of wine and doesn't, Simon doesn't think to thank him or anything like that.
Yeah, and then the
Like
creepiness of Gordo,
yeah,
the
yeah.
creepiness of Gordo displayed on just all of his like inappropriate showing up at their house, and putting koi fish in their koi pond and things like that.
Yeah, like he's trying to be like helpful, but it's a little and I kind of do get Simon at the beginning. He's like, "Don't you think this is weird?" And the wife Robin doesn't seem to think it's weird. And again, I think that hints to this divide between Robin and Simon, the married couple, that it's never like said, but you just get a sense that Robin is really unsatisfied in life. There's little hints of it everywhere. They kind of hint that maybe she had a problem with pills at
Right.
one
Yes,
point,
they did.
and eventually they do talk about that. But I like how it's hinted at early on in the film, and she's home alone while Simon is at work. There's something there. Like, I think Robin has always felt a little off about her husband. Like there's something off about her husband, but she can't quite figure it out. And along comes
Yeah,
this guy
exactly.
from her childhood, from Simon's childhood, and she's very interested in him immediately, and kind of always takes his side, like, oh, he's not weird, he's not this, he's not that. And I think it's because she sees him as some sort of like she can answer those questions she has about her husband that
Exactly.
Gordon
Yeah, I
can.
think that's
Yeah,
you're right about that. Yeah, because
yeah,
yeah, there's a scene where they're out with his douchebag friends and everyone's talking about their careers and all this stuff. And when it comes up to Robin, he's like, "Oh, she's a consultant and she's designed our house and all this stuff." So, it's like she has maybe her career was put on hold when they got married or something, or maybe they had when she first was pregnant, maybe she took some time off from work or something. You know what I'm trying to say? And like,
Yeah.
so she's like some sort of like architect or like interior designer or something along that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. But right now, she's just sort of, I don't know, trying to like, she's taking care of the house. She's jogging every day. She's not exactly working, you know. And I feel like there's like a resentment there towards her husband. It's very subtle, but it's there.
Yeah.
And we learn a lot more too. Like there's a dinner scene where Gordon sort of invites himself to dinner at the house, and Gordon kind of spells out the whole point of the movie when he's a little drunk, and he goes, "Sometimes the bad things that can happen to you can be a gift," and that's sort of what's like what Gordon is doing throughout this movie. He thinks he's giving Jason Bateman the ultimate gift of like, I'm gonna fucking ruin your life and you're gonna appreciate shit now.
That's pretty much the whole point of this film is to like, in some ways, and this is kind of like this is like revealed later on that Simon's life is based on lies and misdeeds, and even his position at this new company is based on deceptions, and
Yeah.
he's only showing like the best, very best, completely edited version of his life to Robin, and Robin really doesn't even know who the hell he is,
Right. And I think she, again, subconsciously knows that, but she can't put her finger on it. And you really learn, like, even in the beginning of the movie, like you might be able to relate to like what Simon is saying, like, oh, this guy's weird. We weren't really friends, and he keeps showing up, but you never like Simon. At least I didn't. I never liked him. I never sympathized with him. I always thought he was kind of a jerk, and there was something off. And the more you reveal, like they reveal about him, the more you're like, yes, you're right to feel that way.
Yeah,
And
Simon right off the bat, I didn't like him. You know what I mean? As a guy, and then but even Gordo was like, he's the kind of dude who's like, you probably run into people like that try to like force their way into your life somehow. Like,
oh, sure,
like not
sure.
even like, yeah, like other bizarre male, friends or people that are just like, they want to know you more. They want to be in your life somehow. And with Gordo, there was a objective to that, but right away, immediately, like in the beginning, you're just like, what's this guy? He's suffocating. He wants to be involved, and maybe he's got this thing for his wife, like that kind of thing.
Right. And it kind of reaches a point where he invites them over for dinner, and it's one of the more awkward, uncomfortable scenes in the movie.
Dude, that was 100% like one of the most uncomfortable parts of the movie is when they show up at this house, which isn't even his house.
Yeah, but they don't know that, and they're like, "What the fuck?" You almost get a sense of jealousy from Simon that this house they go to, thinking it's Gordon's, is nicer than theirs. It's like some Patrick Bateman American Psycho shit.
Yeah, totally. And the way he framed it up originally is that was going to be like a date, like a couple's date, or like a double date where he.
Oh, no. He framed it as a dinner party. There'd be other couples there.
Other people there, yeah, right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah, like a dinner party. And then it turns out just being the three of them, which right away I just would have left, man. You know what I mean? This motherfucker is gonna like, he's gonna like poison us or some shit. We're gonna wake up missing, internal organs or something. You know what I mean? So
yeah, and then he leaves
I would
them there.
get like a vibe.
Yeah,
he gets a mysterious phone call and then has to bail.
Yeah, which really, like, like the more you like, again, like that was just all for show. That wasn't, there was no phone call or anything. And he kind of admits to, you caught me in a lie. This isn't my house. This is my wife's house. It's my, I have kids. My wife's leaving me. And it's you think a very revealing moment about Gordo, but even that turns out to be a lie. And that's where Simon is like, dude, you're creeping me out. Stay away from me. Stay away from my wife. And there's that great sinister scene where they're trying to leave and he won't open the gate, you know? But you find out all of that was even a lie. Like, so who is Gordon? That's not his house. That's not his ex-wife's house. He doesn't have a wife or kids. You know what I mean? Like, you feel a little bit of one way about Gordon in the beginning of the film, and it completely changes by the end.
Yeah, because now you're really thinking that this dude is like some sort of like killer or something, or murderer, or he's gonna do some really sketchy shit, you know?
Right,
You're not sure what his
exactly.
motivations are. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was even wondering, like, is this really was all about a chance meeting at a furniture store? You know, it's so crazy, and I think it is. I think Gordon was just going about his day and runs into him and runs into Simon and hatches this sort of plan, almost like, wow, here you are. Like I can finally fucking get revenge on you, you know? I don't think he's been planning this his whole life.
Really? Okay, because I kind of go back and forth on that. Part of me thinks that he stalked him a little bit and followed him. But then again, how would he even know where he just moved to LA? So how yeah, so maybe I don't know, I go back and forth on it. You know what I mean? Like, was this premeditated or was it just a chance meeting and then it triggered him down this path? I kind of like the
Yeah,
idea of it being a chance meeting, actually. Yeah.
I think it is. And it's funny like that, like Gordon is supposed to be the villain, but it seems to me that Simon is really the sociopath of the three. And Gordon, I don't know what he is. Like, he's not pure evil or like some sort of mastermind or anything. He's just a guy who saw an opportunity and took it, you know, because he had nothing else
Yeah.
to lose, apparently, you know, and that makes him creepier to me.
I think that for sure Simon's the villain and he's like the sociopath. Clearly he's a sociopath because we're getting to the point we're going to reveal like what actually happened in their lives. And
Right.
Gordo is like this kind of collateral damage in Simon's completely self-centered voyage through life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this psychotic voyage through life where he steps all over people and suffers little or no consequences. And this time around, this collateral damage has come back around for some kind of retribution against him. And it's finally time for Simon to pay the piper here, you know, and settle his score with the universe, you know.
Right. And this is something Simon hasn't thought about because, like, when he sees Gordon, he just doesn't even know who he is and then doesn't bring up, oh, yeah, this thing happened between us. He's just like, oh, yeah, whatever, Gordon from high school. But Gordo's been thinking about this his whole life.
Yeah, and
And
it speaks to how sometimes like, you know, bullying and like frivolous acts and things that someone with a bullying mentality might consider as like, oh, this is a funny joke I'm going to play on this guy, or it's a minor thing. No one really cares. But that completely molds the way someone is for their entire life. You know, it's like that one nudge that the other person puts no significance on is like the defining thing for someone else, you know, and
yes,
that's like such an interesting point, you know, an interesting concept in this movie.
yeah, absolutely. And I like that Robin is like kind of asking for like help from like the neighbors and you know, they're all worried about like Gordo, but like she really, as you turn out, should be worried about her husband. Like she at one point she starts looking into her husband, like playing a little detective, which I really liked, you know. Like she's gonna get to the bottom of this and finds out she doesn't really know her husband at all. And like he does have a sinister link to Gordo. And you know, she still feels sympathetic towards him. She finds out about what has so yeah, by the way, spoilers for the movie. We find out that Simon spread a terrible rumor about Gordon that ruined his life.
Yeah. And even to the point where his parents found out his father like, you know, like beat him and, you know, harmed him.
Yeah, and
And
got arrested for
and
beating him.
yeah, got arrested for beating him, and it's like, have you ever seen Your Friends and Neighbors,
I believe I
that
have.
movie
Yes. Yeah.
with Jason Patrick and Ben Stiller?
Yeah.
Jason
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Patrick's
yeah.
character is very similar to Justin Bateman's character in this, where they're just total sociopaths. And
Yeah.
Jason Patrick, there's like this super uncomfortable scene where they're in a steam room, and he's talking about the best sex he ever had, and he describes a scene where they like gang raped like some young kid. And they're like,
Jesus.
and he just blew it off as like this frivol. Oh yeah, that was the best, I ever had.
Right.
And well, he never came back. He never told anyone. And oh, by the way, he actually never came back to school. We never saw him again. And then he just blew it off. And it's like
Right.
the kid probably like, who knows what happened to him. And that's kind of like Gordo is like sort of that guy. I mean, he doesn't get raped, but like there's
Well, yeah.
this devastating thing happens to him and alters his life completely because he becomes this like pariah in a lot of ways.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think Simon spread a rumor that he saw Gordo getting molested in a car. And I think it sort of just became like a game of telephone, whatever. Like, it turned out,
Yeah.
Gordo's gay, and his father's some horrible homophobe who thinks having a gay son is the worst thing ever and beats him. Of course, none of this is shown. It's all just, we find out about it. And yeah, this little incident that Simon doesn't even think of as a big deal as anything, it has just completely ravished this guy his whole life. And Simon just feels nothing, nothing at all. And Robin is rightfully, very disturbed by all this.
And there's a scene where he goes to find Gordo to apologize to him, and he's like, Gordo's like, he's doing like what the hell,
like trivia or something,
like a top hat on and stuff, and he's doing like he's like something that usually like aspiring comedians do. They do like a trivia night at a bar on like a Wednesday night or something like that.
Yeah, you get the idea that Gordo's life is not good.
Yeah, not even like doing it well. Like you can tell he's like super awkward, not funny,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And Simon catches up to him in the parking garage and is like, tries to apologize to him, but then ends up beating him up.
Yeah, he ends up beating him up and while he's beating him up is like, accept my apology. You really see like what a fucking psycho this guy is. And then tells his wife, yeah, it went well.
It went well. He came home. He's like, how'd it go with Gordo? Oh, it went well,
But what's also interesting to me is Gordo is not really the undoing of Simon's life. Simon is the undoing of his own life. Like Gordo kind of sent like he pitted his wife against her husband. But one of his undoings is like he's up for this promotion. It's between him and another guy. And I'm not sure what he did to the other guy, but he fucked him in a way that he wasn't going to get, he made sure that guy wasn't going to get the promotion.
He fabricated this story about something that happened with one of his previous employers.
Ah, okay.
And basically ruined this guy's chances of getting the promotion. I think the guy actually got fired too, or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah, he did, because he shows up at Simon's house and smashes his window like in front of his wife and boss and family. But everyone gets to see who Simon really is because of Simon's doing. Really, like that was like one of his big undoings. Like Simon ends up losing his job over this stuff. Like his life by the end is completely falling apart.
Yeah. And then there's the kind of climax of the film, which is like more of earlier in the film. There's a scene where Robin is taking it's hard to like determine whether or not she had taken more drugs than required, or if I don't know, Gordo actually slipped something into her Gatorade or something like that.
Right, but yeah. But the audience is meant to wonder, did she OD?
yeah, it's like kind of like dubious whether or not, because she was taking some kind of pills, but then there also
Well,
was, yeah. What were we gonna say?
yeah, no, she's sneaking pills. Like, like
Yeah,
she goes
just
over
sneaking
to her neighbors for a
medications.
glass of wine. Yeah, going through like their medicine cabinet. And after she collapses, her husband confronts her and finds her like pill stash. And he's like, I thought we were
Yeah,
done with this. And then come to find out, it was, Gordon Gordy had drugged her. Because one of the good things this movie does is Robin's home alone a lot. And she feels the sense that she might be being watched, that there's someone in the house. And, it turns out she was right, but it doesn't overplay that hand. It's very like, oh, did I leave the faucet on, or did someone come in and turn it on? And
right,
and
right.
that's not answered until the end, till you see Gordo's plan. So, which leaves like the big question: what do you think Gordo really did? Like, it's because it's left a little ambiguous.
Right. Because it turns out that she's pregnant.
Yeah,
We
yeah, she's
discover
pregnant.
that she's pregnant, and there's a little bit of a time slip in the film where she's about to have the baby, and then all this stuff happens, and then um, Simon is this package shows up for him, and it has like videos of Gordon, um, like lurking with Robin while she's passed out and he's wearing a mask, and there's the implication that he had sex with her and possibly could be have impregnated her, right?
Right,
But once again, totally not confirmed. Like there isn't like a scene or footage of him actually having sex with her. It's all implied,
right,
you know.
exactly. And
So yeah,
you see Gordon's demeanor change when he calls Simon, and now he's got the upper hand, and you see just like how sinister this guy is. And he goes, "I didn't touch her, or did I?"
yeah,
And at this
exactly.
point, Simon's life has completely been destroyed, and Gordo has given him his gift. I have destroyed you, and what are you going to do now? Will this be a good thing for you or a bad thing? Um, But I watched this with my girlfriend and we talked afterwards. Do you think Gordo is the father, or do you think he's just fucking with them?
There's a
Because
lot
I
of
was, yeah.
reasons. I'm sorry. Well, go ahead. What were you going to say first?
No, I'd like to hear your thought first, actually.
There's a lot of reasons to believe that he could be the father. He is the father because they. Well, let's no. All right. Let me rephrase that. When she was pregnant, she had a miscarriage. It wasn't that um, Simon shooting blanks or anything like that. You know what I mean? So
Right,
he did get her pregnant at one point. Okay.
right.
So now, do I believe? All right. I'm gonna. My statement is that Gordo is not the father.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't. Based on his character, based on the things that happened to him in his life, I don't see him raping her.
yeah, I kind of felt the same way. Like the whole meeting of him running into Simon is by chance. And just like her getting pregnant, it's, okay, oh, I can use this. I can use this as an opportunity to make them think that I'm the father. He seems like the kind of guy, he's not like a mastermind, who hatches this plan. He's just sort of like improvising and making things up as he goes along. And finding out Robin was pregnant, I think, yeah, he's gonna like use that uh, against them. I kind of tend to agree with you that as sick as what he did was, I don't see him as a rapist. I don't know. I think it's terrible that Robin is the collateral damage in this war between these two guys. And, I think Gordon probably sees himself as a good guy who wouldn't do something like that, even though Gordon is not a good guy at all.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. There's
So
also a
yeah,
little bit of thinking, like, so then what was his motivations for making the film too? Like she was pregnant after that. Like they discovered her being pregnant later. So when he
yeah,
creeped up into her house and drugged her, because like that there was like I mean there's you can even float that in another direction because he, he was attracted to her for sure, right?
Oh, for sure.
There's a sense
Yeah.
that you get that he's definitely into her, right?
Yeah.
And you know he definitely knows it made Simon uncomfortable. So just to be a creep, he might have done those things to go and drugged her, lurked, had a mask on, like put her in this compromised position. Um,
Right.
you know,
A
and
monkey
just
mask
had
too,
that
which is,
footage.
yeah,
Yeah, had that
exactly. Yeah.
footage and just utilized it when the opportunity came.
That's what I was thinking too, because I was like, well, at first I thought he must have done it because otherwise, exactly, what's the motivation of making that film? He must have done it. But there was this, if you think about it a little bit, yeah, it might just have been, he used this opportunity to really drive a nail in with these guys. Um, but either way, at the end, I don't think you're supposed to feel sympathy towards Gordo at all. I think you're really supposed to be
No,
horrified and disturbed, and I was, Gordon reveals to not be as meek as you thought he was at the beginning, but did he rape her, man? I just, I don't know. I really, really don't know, and that's part of like the what makes this movie so interesting. You just really, a lot of it is ambiguous. Like, who is Simon after this whole experience? He's lost his job. He's lost his wife. What is he going to do now? Personally, I think he'll continue to be a fucking bastard. He'll land somewhere else. He'll just keep doing the same shit over and over again. I don't know if Gordo's gift to him really, really worked, but that's just what I think.
yeah, it's I'm on board with that too. It's interesting.
Yeah, another thing I wanted to point out was the monkey mask. Like Gordo finds out Simon has a phobia of monkeys, so when monkeys start appearing and like the little notes he sends them, and the fact that he's wearing a monkey mask, it's little. So again, like using like circumstances, like to really get at this guy.
Yeah, definitely, man. And yeah, he's very interesting movie.
Yeah, yeah, and especially this being Joel Edgerton's directorial debut. Um, Coming out
Talented
of the
guy,
gate
man.
strong. Yeah, very talented guy, man. I know he's directed another film which I haven't seen, but he's just the kind of guy that like I'm interested. If he's in it, I'll see it because he seems to choose interesting stuff to do. He maybe there's a little bit of one for me, one for you kind of thing. You see him pop up in more like kind of mainstream films. He just did a George Clooney film. He was in a couple like Ridley Scott big epics films. But it's these smaller projects that he picks or he gets involved with that's really interesting to me anyway. Like I said, The Square. There's another Australian film. I think it's called Accolades or something like that, where he plays like a serial killer. Really interesting
Okay.
actor and filmmaker. And also, I want to point out he was the best part of Black Mask, like Black Mass. I mean, as like the crooked FBI agent, he's really good at this sort of stuff, and you can just tell from the script where his interests sort of lied in the darker side of the human psyche.
Yeah, man. Him and Sean Harris together in The Stranger was like perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my favorite films of 2022, and yeah, I urge anyone listening to go out and watch that. But what would you give The Gift on our Necromaniacs rating scale?
I give it a 4.5 out of 5, definitely.
I also give it a 4.5 out of 5. Um, Really, really great movie. Doesn't fall into the normal horror tropes that he doesn't necessarily play out the way you think it's going to, but the movie is something you turn over in your head after you've seen it for a while. It stays with you, and that's the sign of a really, really good movie.
What's funny about this grading thing? Like
Mm.
Tina and I watched a lot of these movies together, and sometimes we try to grade them after we watch them.
Yeah.
She's gotten granular to the point where she gives quarter points.
Really? Oh man, she should write for
Yeah.
Pitchfork then.
She'll be like, oh, this is like a 2.75. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's kind of funny.
That's interesting, man. Yeah, for me, 3 and up is a recommendation. 2.5 and below is not. 2.5 is like, hey, it was almost there. 3, it's like, yeah, it wasn't great, but it's worth a watch. That's sort of where I start things. And
yeah, pretty much. I'm pretty much on the same page.
This kind of this movie's a masterclass in acting, and just for a first-time director, man, he really knocked it out of the park. Just everything about it, even the opening scene in the empty house, I just feel really sets the tone for Simon and Robin's relationship. Just everything, like it's just a smart, interesting film, man. This came out in 2015, and I saw it back then, and it stayed with me. I mean, I don't know how big this movie got, but I feel like it's something people should definitely seek out. People should definitely see this.
Yeah, definitely. That's a full-throated recommendation on this movie.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely, people. Please go out and watch this. There's another film called The Gift, directed by Sam Raimi. Don't get these two confused.
Right, exactly. All right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for listening, and we'll talk to you next week. Take care.
Take care, everyone. All right, Mike.
All right,
I got to run.
All right, dude. Have a good one.
All right. Yeah, you too.